Hi guys, a very good evening to one and all. As you all know, from today onwards, there will be two sessions per day. This is the first session of the day. Attendance will be regularly monitored, so make sure you attend every day. And as a sign of attendance and as a part of daily schedule, you need to fill the form provided at the end of the session. I think yesterday you have got the familiarization of Unity editor as well as the design of prototype 1 has started. And another most important point to be discussed is about the payment. And as a gentle reminder, please note that the deadline for the payment of 100 rupees for the people who are interested in internship is today till 8 p.m. And once again, I'm reminding you, please do fill the form after successful payment. So, guys, Tekken is back with another interesting session, which includes few more fundamental concepts of Unity, few details of car follow, and the player controller. And I think completing the player controller almost means the completion of prototype 1. I think now Gautam can run towards the complete implementation of the prototype 1 in the case session. I think Gautam, you can continue with the session.
Yeah, thank you, Harshita. Guys, let's just first see what we have done till yesterday. Let me show you where we left off. So when we hit play, our car just moves down the road, hitting all the obstacles, and we have the perfect implementation of physics in our game as of now. So what we are going to do now, like yesterday, we left with the problem that as the car moves far away, we are unable to see our car. So what we need to do, like to see our car continuously, as I said, we'll be seeing only the things which our camera shows the player, like being like what what's the camera view. Let's focus on our camera once. See, this is our camera view as of now, but when our car moves forward, even then our camera view is like this. So what if we move our camera along with our car, so that it feels like wherever our car goes, if we make our camera follow it somehow, then we'll get the feel like it's both are moving, right? Like we'll get uh, I hope like we'll just need to take our camera behind our car so that it feels like the uh, we are moving behind the car. So let me adjust my camera and car back to their original positions. To do this task, we need to get introduced into a new concept, programming concept called variables. So let's get started. Let me go to my scripts folder and open my script that is present here, the player controller script. So first, see, yesterday we have used this vector dot forward, which helps us move in the forward direction, and this time dot delta time, which helps us to convert our movement not based on our frame but based on time, like movement per second. So, and we have this 20, which is a hard coded value, which is a particular value we have fixed this. um, but it's not good practice to fix these values like this. So instead what I'll use is I'll make use of a variable. To create a variable in here, I'll use things like public, which is the access modifier. I'll tell what values are once creating it. I'll create the speed variable and assign the value 20 to it. I can give it as 20 directly, or to represent that as a float, I can put it as 20.0f. And here, instead of the value which hard coded as 20, I can give my speed variable here. And see, we have two things apart from the variable name speed. The float, as we know, float is a data type. Float just represents the class of numbers which have decimal value in them. So float is data types which can hold the decimal values. And next, public. It's the access modifier. Means it just tells that where the speed variable can be accessed. Like if we have this public attached to this variable here, we can use this variable speed outside of our script also, outside of this player controller. First, let me just show you like this speed when we go into our Unity editor back. See, as we saved our script in our inspector, we can find this public float speed here. But when I click on my vehicle here, see here, in our player controller, we are able to see our speed variable, which is 20, which we have assigned. But we can also place the variable values we need as we want. We can edit here. The values which remain in our inspector will be the effective values of the variable. So let me keep that as 20. And now you might think, what's the difference? Instead of giving one particular value, we have just created the variable, and it's just an extra effort to put the variable. That's it. What's the actual benefit of it? We'll not know just by seeing. Let me demonstrate the importance of the variable just by playtesting once. See here, when I hover this mouse over this vehicle, my mouse changes so that I can change my values. Then if I click this mouse and move rightwards, see the value of my speed increases as I as I move rightwards. Whereas when I move leftwards, the value of my speed decreases. This is a very important property. Now let me just save my script. Sorry, save my scene, and when I'm going into my play mode, see, I'll just dynamically I'll increase and decrease the speed. See, when I decrease the speed all the way, when it becomes negatives, sorry, I'll just rerun that again. See, when I decrease that value all the way till negatives, see, my car is coming backward. Did you notice that? So we have our speed variable. When our speed variable is positive, our car will move forward, and when our speed variable is negative, our car will move backward. So this variable itself is making this much impact in our code, right? Like having this one variable, we are unable to do this earlier just because our value is fixed. We have hard coded that to make it the value as 20, whereas now holding this, when I'm changing these values, we are able to move it forward and backward as per our need. And later we'll use this speed variable to implement the forward and backward movement of our game object in the player controller. So as of this lesson is concerned, our aim is to follow the car. So this is the use of the speed variable. We will be using this later, but now our aim is to follow the car. So what must follow the car? Like our camera must follow the car, right? So let's go to our main camera, and as I said, the components that are present here in our main camera will decide its properties and behavior. So now we have a thought of giving an extra behavior to our main camera. So what we have to do to give that behavior what we want, we obviously need a C# script, right? So let me go to my scripts here. I'll right click, and in create, I'll just create a new C# script. And remember the naming convention, we need to start with capital letter, and I'll name it as camera. And again, when we start another word, we need to start with a capital letter. So I named it as, sorry, it's not controller. I'll name it as camera follow. See, this name makes some sense, right? Like this script I'm going to attach to my camera, and this helps for my camera to follow something. So I will select my main camera and I will drag drop this camera follow script. And when I leave that, just see uh, our camera follow script uh, got attached to our main camera game object as a component. So whatever behavior we want our camera to have, now we can program in our camera follow script. So now I have opened this with a double click, and here just see how before writing the script, actually let's see how to do that. uh, See, as we play the game along, the car moves in the forward direction. Say I'll move the car a bit forward. See, I moved my car by 3 units. Say in the same frame, I made somehow, I wrote this script somehow which tells the camera to move 3 steps forward. See, it's the same view, right? Like wherever the car goes, the camera with the same gap, if it will follow the player, then we are done, right? Like in every frame update, if our where are like the camera is always behind the car with some gap, then our purpose will be satisfied. Wherever our car goes, our camera will be following them. So let's to do that, I will just reset the values back of my camera and my car, both of them. So these are the values which I have previously. Let me leave them like that. So uh, in this main camera, we have some script called camera follow. From this camera follow script, we need to somehow access this vehicle position. So vehicle position is present in transform. And as we know, this transform is a component which is attached to this game object vehicle. So to have this position reference, so to get this, we need to, as we have to know the position of this car somehow, we need to know the transform component. To know the transform, we need to know the game object itself. So let me go to the C# script, and we need the reference of our game object. So for that, we need a variable. So let me create a public game object variable here. As we know, our vehicle is a game object. So I'm just declaring this variable. Note that I'm not initializing this. I'm just declaring this variable. And as this is a public variable and it is of type game object. See, our vehicle, as I said, is also a game object. And when I click on my main camera in my camera follow script, see, it's asking me to give me a player, give me a game object. As of now, the player game object is just declared declared but not initialized. It's our task to initialize this player game object. So to do that, just click the vehicle here, drag that, and place it here. So see that that turned into blue. So when I leave my mouse button, it shows that vehicle there. So it just means that we have successfully initialized our player variable, which is a game object, to our vehicle. So we have somehow referenced our game object here. Now it's time for us to use that player variable. So in that script, in that camera follow script, we can this player just refers to this complete vehicle game object, and we can just use all these components how we used in this normal player controller script. But the other thing is that we need to use that player variable to access these components and the values, etc., etc. We'll be seeing that. So as of now, we just created a new script for our camera follow, and we created a new variable of type game object, and we assigned our vehicle to that game object. So now we can refer this what do we say, this vehicle and every component that's present in the vehicle from our camera follow script using this player variable. So let me do a small thing. Like now what I'll do is in my update, I'll just use my transform dot position. See, my transform dot position here refers to transform attached to this current object. See, this script is attached to the script which now I am writing is attached to this main camera. So if I say in this script, if I say transform dot position, it refers to the transform of our main camera. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my uh, transform dot position, which means the camera position. I'm assigning the player position to it. So I'll refer my player. It's the game object, and when I use my period operator, I have many options over it. And what I'll choose is I will access the transform component. Guys, this transform which we are using here, it refers to the camera object, as this script is attached to the main camera, whereas I'm using my player here, which is the vehicle. And when I use dot transform, this is the transform of the vehicle. And when I say position, we can get the position what. So every so as we know, update runs in every frame. Like for every frame, update is called one. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking my player position. So as player refers to the vehicle, this is the transform of that vehicle. See, I'll show here. I'm just picking the transform position. Like as of now, I have values 0, 0, 0. So in my when my update is called, I'll be grabbing this values 0, 0, 0, and I'll go here. And as it says, this is the grabbing part. Like we grab those values, and we have uh, placed those values in this transform dot position, which refers to this camera position. So what's happening now? I'll be grabbing this 000 and will be placing that here at 0. So immediately when I run this game, my 04 minus 6 turns into 000. But my vehicle will be keep moving right in each frame. So those values will be directly picked up and placed in my main camera's position. That's what we have wrote now. Let me just save the script. Yeah, let me just save the script. I have saved that, and now let's run this. Let's see what happens. See, this is our game view, and we see our camera just went inside our car. This is just because that we don't have any gap between our camera and our car. We just assign our vehicle's position to our camera. But see, now uh, when we have it like this, there is some difference between the position of this camera and the car. And we have another issue here. Just observe clearly, it's not smooth, right? Like the view is very bad. Let's check the view. Let's make it uh, work. But the movement is also like it's not smooth. So we need to handle these two cases now. So let's focus on our first case where our camera is inside our car. So what can we do now? So to do that, if we have some gap between our camera and our car, so initially let's we have our car at 000 and our main camera at 04 minus 6. So if we maintain like every time if we uh, pick our car's position, add this value 04 minus 6 to the position of our car and assign that to our camera instead of directly assigning car's position to camera's position. If we add this offset, if we give this gap, then I guess we can have a good look. So let us do that. So as of now, let's just try to add those values 0, 4, -6. See, here it gave a red line, and that means we have an error. I will tell you what wrong we are doing here. See, these are just three values, and we can understand that here this is a vector, and for us it looks like we are adding 0 to x-axis, 4 to y-axis, and -6 to z-axis. Whereas for our compiler, it doesn't make much sense. So we need to create a vector 3 as this position uh, of our car, our vehicle is a vector 3, and notice that our transform dot position, which is our camera's position, is also a vector 3. So now here we need to create a new vector 3. We create new classes by using this keyword new. So we are creating a new vector 3 with these values here, the x as 0, y as 4, and z as -6, which are the same values which are the same values which our camera have. So let's just save this. Uh, so now we are adding a vector 3 to another vector 3, and this complete result we are assigning to this transform dot position, which is our camera's position. So let us see what happens now. I'll just increase the size a bit. Yeah, let me play now. See, this is okay, but what happens here? We are following the car, but it's not smooth, right? To do, I'll just tell you why it's happening. Just see uh, here. Let me. That's because of our update. Here, I'll go into my play mode and pause that immediately. What is our intention? Our vehicle. So we need to grab our vehicle value every time and add some value to it. Like so, adding this vector 3. Let's just see only the z-axis uh, for our clarity, like for our convenience. le- uh, we need to let's just see our z value to just know what's happening here. So technically in this particular frame I have paused it, but some frames have elapsed, right? So in this particular frame, what I the code I have written is take the player's position and add this new vector to it and assign that to our camera position. So let's just consider our z value and see how things are happening. So now the player position z value is 0.800. So when I add -6 to this z value, the value must be minus 5 minus 5.2, sorry, 5.4. And that value minus 5.4 must be assigned to the z value of our camera. Similarly, the x and y. I'm using just the z value for our understanding purpose. So let's see what's the value that's present in our main camera. See, it's not 5.4 minus 5.4. It's around 5.6. And let me do a next frame update. Uh, see, now my vehicle is at 1.2, and as per my program in this frame also my position has to be taken, and as I'm considering z-axis, when I add -6 to 1.2, I'll be left with 4.8. So my main camera must have the value 4.8. But see, we have our value as 5.2. So are you understanding that? See, in the next frame update, we got our 4.8. So what we want, the thing is happening, but there is one frame delay between the camera and the car. So to fix this, instead of using update, we'll use something called as late update. Late update also behaves like update. It is called once per frame, but using late update, we can make sure that everything we have done in this late update is done before the frame gets passed. So let me just show you the same thing again. See, now see in the game view, it is so smooth. We don't have any disturbance in our game now. And let's see under the hood what's happening by just pausing. See, our now our vehicle is at 0.8. So adding -6 to it, our camera must have a value of -5.2. Let us see if it have. See, it's having -5.199, which is approximately 5.2. And let me run another frame. See, in this after this frame, my car's Z value is 1.2. Now my camera must have a value of 4.799. See, it's the same value, which is like -4.799. For your confirmation, let me do another frame update and check once. See, now we have this value as 1.600 and adding -6 to this, I must be having -4.399. Yeah, that's the same thing here. See, so because of this frame update, everything is happening in the same frame. That's the reason we are able to see this so smoothly. So before case, what just happened is the transition did take place, but we have just one frame lag, and because of that one frame lag, we got that like that, like we got such disturbance where the camera felt a bit jerky. And next, see here, here we have again we have this value as hard coded. Let us create a variable for this, and we need not test and change this variable, so I'm not making this public. When I use this public here, private here, it cannot be accessed outside of this particular camera follow class. So I'm using it as private vector3, and I will name this variable as offset, uh, so that the variable is readable. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just adding, taking my player position, adding some offset to that, and assigning that to my camera position. So let me save this and test again. So this is cool, right? The car is moving on its own and it's hitting all the obstacles, and our camera is following that no matter what. So we have done with our camera script. So here just see one thing, guys, like as I told you already, the play mode is very dangerous. Like whenever we change any values of any variable, like we change it, say some uh, property here, or some values, whatever it is, when we get back to our normal mode, those won't be saved. So we need to know clearly when we are in play mode or when we are not in our play mode, to give that to do that, our Unity has given uh, something called preferences. Just go to edit, and in this click preferences, and in the preferences you will be finding something called as colors. In these colors, just what we need is just see where the play mode tint is and change that color to, to whichever color you want. So I'm changing this to a bit blue and I'm decreasing the opacity a bit. So I'll say this like this and just come back to my scene and I'll hit the play mode. See, now all my window have this tint here, which just shows that I'm in my play mode. This helps me accidentally changing my variables. So and this makes me sure that I'm editing. If I really edit some values in my play mode, I'll make sure that uh, the those values were not gone. Like I will remember those values somehow, and I'll get back to my normal mode and update them. So this is the third lesson in our unit, guys. Like in this, let me just recap what we have learned in this particular lesson. We came to we came to know about variables. We have seen data types like float, game object, etc. And we have used our access modifiers like public and private. Now let me show you a thing. Like see our in this script we have game object player as public, and we are able to see that in our inspector. Whereas the vector3 offset variable, I made it as private. As I said, public will help us view or use that particular variable outside of this camera follow. So that's the reason our Unity editor is able to show this particular player variable here. But in the case of offset, it's not the it's not public. So as it is private, our Unity editor was unable to grab the value and show it here. So that's the access modifiers, and we in this process, like in this lesson, mm, we have seen how to declare and initialize variables. In some cases, we have declared and initialized variables initially in the script itself, and we have changed those values later here in our inspector. In some cases, we just declare the variables and later initialized in our inspector here. We don't have any initialization in our script, whereas in other case, the third case where we declared and initialized here itself, we didn't give the access to our inspector so that we can change this. So this is the thing with this lesson. With this we completed our camera follow. So let's see our the next step, where as of now we have our car moving on itself automatically. So let me just go to this play mode and see this ones. See here, without any player intervention, the car moves on automatically, and it falls off the cliff. Uh, so we need to write our player controller in this lesson. Like no player wants to just see a car moving and feels happy that they played the game. Player only enjoys when they have something to do with the game. So to implement our player control, let's just start with our vehicle movement. So how to do that? Let's just see a way to do that. I'll just focus on my vehicle and see. I can move. See, we have written our forward movement like this. Like we took our speed variable and some of the things and we made somehow to move forward like this. But similarly, we can move left or right when we change the x direction, right? If we somehow move our car on the positive and negative directions of x direction, we can make it move left or right. So let's see a way to do that. So to do that, let me go to my player controller script here in Visual Studio. I'll declare a new variable here. I'll name it as turn speed, a public float turn speed. And see the naming convention here, guys. Like the first word of the variable we are creating is always small, and when we get the second word, we are using a capital letter. These are all just the naming conventions. I can't really explain why I'm using that. It's just the convention we follow so that we make our code readable. So I have this turn speed now, and what I'll do is I'll use this turn speed variable to translate or to slide along the x-axis. So here we have used our speed variable to translate along z-axis, and now let me show you how to do the moment in terms of x-axis. I'm using the same method transform.translate, and this time instead of using vector3.forward, I'll be using vector3.right. See, see here when I hover over vector3.right, it just tells us that vector3.right is a shorthand for writing vector3 100. So what's this vector3 100? It's just the a unit vector in our x direction, right? So having 100 means uh, as this vector3 dot right, it just gives us the direction which is a unit vector along the x direction. And now let's use the same things which we used above. Let's use the time dot delta time to make our uh, shifts or the translate happen per time, like per a given second instead of the frame update, the frame rate. So that's the use of time dot delta time as we seen earlier. And this time I'll be using the turn speed. So let me save this and note that I have not initialized my variable turn speed and the default value for it will be 0. So let me get back and as I have given my turn speed as public, I'll be able to see this variable value in my inspector and I'll be able to change that. So see here, we got our turn speed variable, and let's just go play, and while playing I'll just change my turn speed variable. See, when I'm increasing this turn speed value, it has, sorry, when I'm increasing my turn speed value, it will be moving right, and when I'm decreasing this turn speed value, it will be moving left. So we came to know that somehow by changing this turn speed value based on our input. So if I'll somehow map, so if I'll, so like if I give some turn speed value uh, and see whenever we have the positive value for this turn speed, say, see if I have some positive value of turn speed, it's constantly moving right. When I have my negative value for my turn speed, it's constantly moving left. So I can move this car left or right based on the turn speed value is positive or negative. So now it's time to implement that. We have got this power of using this turn speed variable to adjust its position along the x-axis. so that it moves like it feels like it is moving left or right. So uh, to take the input, we'll be using our Unity's input manager. So let me first show you how, like what Unity's input manager is. Here, let me go to edit, and in that, let me go to my project settings. In that, we have different options there, and in that, let's just select input, and in that input, we have something called access. So this is our input manager which Unity has implemented default, like which Unity gives us in default. And see, in this horizontal axis, I have something called positive buttons, negative buttons. So here when we see, the positive buttons are the right arrow key and the D button, whereas the negative buttons are left arrow key and the A button. So what these positive buttons do? So if I use this horizontal axis somehow, my input manager, if I click the right arrow or my D, it will give a value of +1. Whereas if I click my left arrow or A key, it will be giving a value of -1. If I don't click anything, then the value will be 0. So let me just see how it happens. Uh, I'll just create a new variable called public, as I want to see that in my inspector, and let this be a float, and I'll name this variable as horizontal input, as I want to deal with my axis here, horizontal axis here, like the left and right arrows and the A and D keys. So let me initialize this horizontal input variable. So let me use the input class. As I said, Unity Manager is providing us the access, and to access those axes, like we have our horizontal axis here in our edit project settings, and in that input we have our horizontal axis, and see that just see that we have our name of this axis as horizontal. Just copy this name, and in this code we are using the input class, and to access that particular axis with its name, we need to use a particular method called getAxis. And let's see what this getAxis is. Returns the value of virtual axis identified by axis name. So we must give this method an axis name. As in this case, we will be giving horizontal. So this method, what it will perform is like it will just grab this horizontal axis, as this name is matched to this horizontal. It will be referring to this horizontal axis, and as mentioned here, we have our positive buttons and negative buttons. So if we click them, the positive buttons will give us 1, and that one will be assigned to our horizontal input. So if we click our negative buttons, the variable, like the axis input manager, the horizontal axis will give a -1, and that -1 will be assigned to this horizontal input. In in the case where I don't give any input, the there will be no value, and the horizontal input value will be 0. So let me see there what's happening. So as the variable is public, I'll be able to see my horizontal input here. So just see here. Uh, what I'll do is I'll just play this. and see by pressing arrow keys if the horizontal input is given or not. See, when pressing the right arrow key, I have one same with D, whereas pressing A or pressing left arrow key, the value is -1. So here we have successfully used our input arrows and or A or D keys to get the values as +or -1. So now we have to use this +or -1 values somehow to translate this car along the x-axis. So to do that, see, this is the transform the translate method we are using to move the car along the x-axis. So I'll just multiply this horizontal input. So if my horizontal input is 1, which will get by pressing the right arrow key or D, in that case my car will this total value will be positive, and my car will be my car will be moving towards the positive x direction. So I'll be able to move rightwards, which is my expected thing. And when the horizontal input is negative, which will happen when I press the left arrow key or A key in on the keyboard. So in that case, my value will be negative and my car will be moving leftwards. So let us check that and make sure that you have given some turn speed here. If turn speed value is 0 and uh, as we are multiplying here, 0 multiplied with anything is 0, so there will be no effect. So let me initialize my turn speed as 40 here. So let me save this and let me just run that. So see here, as I press my different arrow keys, say A or D, sorry. So as I press A or D, I am able to move in the X direction. So that's the thing as of now. So we have successfully used our horizontal input axis to implement the basic left right movement, which we are doing just by sliding our car uh, on our x axis. So now let's see another axis. Let me just go back to edit, and in that project settings, in that now let's see the next one, the vertical axis. Here see, our positive buttons are up or W. So if I press up arrow or the W key, I'll be given +1 value, whereas the negative buttons are the down arrow key or S. So if I press them, the down arrow key or the S key, I'll be having a -1. So let me just check that if it's working or not by declaring a variable and assigning the value. Here again, I'll be creating a public float public, so that I'll be able to see my able to see my variable in my inspector, and let this be a float, and let me name this as the forward input. And here I'll assign the forward input value as I'll be accessing my input manager, and in that I'll be calling my getAxis method, and here I need to refer to my vertical axis. What I'll do is I'll just go back to my Unity, edit, project settings, and in that I'll just copy this name. Guys, if we change the case also, this doesn't work. So make sure that even the capitals and smalls also match perfectly, so that you will be having like is there any issue or here, guys? Okay, let me go back. Like, hello. Okay. Uh, So where I am, yeah. So if there is any small change like this vertical, we need to match even the case. So this name must be exact the same thing as the one in our input manager. So any small change in that will do not match this. And let's see uh, how this value is changing based on our input here. So let me get back to my Unity and run. Just see this forward input. When I press arrow key upward, it's +1. Down arrow key, it's -1. When I press W, it's +1. And when I press S, it's -1. So that's the thing. Now let's take our speed also as control. Let's not make our car go as it is. Now let's get our car also move based on our input. So we'll be doing that just by multiplying this forward input to the previous thing we have. So this time dot delta time into the speed will give us a float value, and our forward input will be +1, -1 or 0. Whenever we are giving any input, it runs as per the input. When we don't give any input, as the value of forward input will be 0, the car remains still. So whenever we press the up arrow key or W, which are the positive buttons, we'll be having a +1 and we'll be able to just move forward. Whereas when we press our negative buttons, which are the down arrow key or the S key, we'll be getting a negative value and our car will be moving backwards. So let's just save this and see how it's happening. See this. Okay, let me go to my play mode. And usually, yes, we are in our play mode now, but in general, our car used to go on its own, but it waits until we give some input. See, we have this like this now. So, so whenever we give input, then only we'll be moving somehow, like either in the forward or backward. So, but we have an issue here, right? Like, see, even without pressing the arrow keys, see when we press our left or right, it's just sliding along the x-axis, which is so weird. So what we'll do now is, in, as of now, we are doing what we are doing is we are taking the arrows input, the horizontal axis input, and we are just sliding based on that input. But what we actually have to do is we need to rotate this. See, when we have this rotate tool selected, and say when I press my left arrow, I'll be, if I rotate this like this, if I rotate this leftwards, and when I press my right arrow, if I rotate this rightwards, that will be perfect, right? Like, and see, whenever I'm rotating my car leftwards, my rotation value in my transform, the y value is getting decreased. So here we have our rotation about our y-axis. So for this particular game object, which is our vehicle, the rotation which we are performing is about our y-axis. So we need to do something. We need to program something in such a manner that when we press our right arrow, our car must rotate like this with an increasing value of y. And on the other side, when we press the left arrow or a in our case, the value of y must start decreasing. So, so this is how we'll be implementing our rotation, and we'll remove the translating on x-axis part. Like we can get rid of the part where we are taking the axis input and just moving just sliding along the x-axis, we can just ignore that, and we can use the rotation instead of that. So let me reset this vehicle value, and let me get back to my script. So to do that, first I can remove this uh, translate along the x-axis thing. So to do that, I need to rotate, right? Like I need to perform some operation with my rotation here. So I have my rotation of this particular vehicle as 000 as of now. So to do that, I need to use transform. And let me see in this whole option. Let me see if there is something related to rotation. So when I go up and see, there is something called rotate, and let me see what it does. And it have different options here, and uh, this is to rotate uh, a particular game object. What I'm interested in this particular implementation where it's asking for a vector 3 axis and a float angle. So we are doing the same thing, right? We have selected an axis which is our y axis, and we have we need to somehow rotate this with some value such that when we press the right arrow key, uh, it will move, it will rotate rightwards, and when we press left arrow key, it will rotate leftwards. So to do that, let's use that. So I need to give a vector 3. What I'll do is I'll use vector 3 dot up here. So what this vector 3 dot up is, this is see when I hover over it, it says shorthand for writing vector 3010. So we know what 010 means. 010 is a unit vector pointing towards y direction, or simply to make sense, for this car the upward direction is y axis, right? So when we use vector 3 dot up, it just points upwards. And I need to, hello, is there any issue?
No, no, no,
Hello.
Gautam. You are
Yeah.
fine.
So we need to rotate about this up axis, right? We need to rotate about this y axis, which for uh, with even just common sense we can understand uh, that we need to rotate that about this vector 3 dot up, which refers to the upper direction. And the value we have already calculated here. We can just grab this value time dot delta time into turn speed into horizontal input. We can copy that and paste here. So we have some turn speed value, and time dot delta time is for here also the same case. The rotation also we want it to happen as per time, not per frame. So we have this time dot delta time here, and this turn speed, this is the value so that we can control the speed, and this horizontal input which refers to our horizontal axis input, which are the left and right arrow keys and the AD keys. So let me save this and just let me go there and test once. So increasing my game view a bit. Okay, let me test now. See, whenever we are pressing something, like we are able to move well, right? Like, see, we are even able to move backwards the way we wanted. So with this, we have we are done with our player controller. Like we have our player controller as we need it. We are able to move it forward and backward, and we are able to rotate it in the way we wanted. So this is the kind of player control we wanted. And now I'll tell you a few ways to make our project clean. See, we have first. Let me start with our project folder. Here, see, we during the process of building this game, we made sure that our project folder is clean. We have separate folders for everything, um, so that everything have its own importance. So all the scripts we placed in our scripts folder, whereas the scenes we placed in our scenes and the course library, everything that every element we used in our course library in our scene is from the course library. And he coming to code here. First, let's uh, clean this code a bit and make it in readable formats. As I said, we are using this variable as public. By doing that, we are doing we are doing nothing but making it available outside of the script, which is not that good. So we will always uh, be like, it is always good to have the private variables. But you might ask me, so you are saying it's good to have private variables, but you are the one who have declared these variables as public. Yes, I have declared them, but uh, I have declared them just to adjust the values here and see what are the values that are optimized. And this horizontal input and forward input, I have used these values here just to make sure that uh, I I'm getting my input correctly. So whenever we have some values here, like in this case 20 and 40, just go back to your code and initialize them with that particular values and save it, and then make all these variables as private. So we are using these values in the test mode. Like while building the game, we are using these variables just to see how those values are changing in this input case. Whereas this turn speed and normal speed, in this case, we have used these variables to determine the perfect values, to determine the optimal values which we need for better experience. So let me write a comment over here, like uh, private variables. So this means that I have all my private variables. And see guys, just make sure that whatever might be the variable, like it is private or it is public or it is float, make sure that you initialize it before using it. So just see, I have my horizontal input here. I have not initialized it there. I just declared that. But I have used my horizontal input in my line 28. But just see that in my 20 line 23 itself, I have initialized it. Even in my update, as it loops for every frame, in every frame, the updation of this value or initialization of this value takes place before using. So it's pretty clear that all the variables that I have here, say speed, turn speed, horizontal input or forward input, every variable I'm using them only after initializing them with some value. So even here in our player also, we have not initialized it here. We made it public and initialized it in our editor there, like in our inspector there. But see, I'm using this player variable only after it's getting initialized, right? So let me get back to this script and clean this a bit, and I'll remove this comment which we have stated in the starting, and now I'll recomment this as taking the input. And here what I'll say, I'll just comment here like what I'm doing in the next step. I'm just taking the forward input and moving it forward. The movement for the car, for the vehicle, based on the vertical input. So I just used my vertical axis through this forward input, and I'm determining my player movement based on that, like the vehicle movement. So I just mentioned that. So if someone who reads my script can understand what it is, rotate the vehicle based on the horizontal input. So I'll change this a bit. Move the vehicle based on the vertical input. So these comments, see now how clear it is. We have all our private variables here, and here we are mentioning that we are taking input, and here we have initialized these two variables, and in the next two lines we are saying based on this line we are moving our vehicle, and based on this line we are uh, rotating our vehicle. And save this, and let's go back to our camera follow script. Here see, we have declared our public uh, game player as our public game object. As I said, it's good to have private variables, but in this case we are bound to use our public because we are initializing this particular variable from the Unity editor. These variable values here, this 20 and 40, we can initialize this from here also. So we initialized them after getting an optimal value. We have initialized them in our script and made them private. But that is not the case with our player game object, right? And our offset, we have already declared this as private, so there is no issue with that. And now let me come to my update, and write it as um, position my camera. Uh, sorry, I'll just uh, place the camera with an offset from the player's position. Position the camera. Position the camera with an offset from the player's position. So I guess this will be understandable. So these comments are mainly useful for other developers to understand you. The all the comments which you write, the compiler just ignores them and go on with the other lines. So our code is now cleaner. And now let's get back to our project again and see here in our hierarchy. Let's now clean this a bit. See here in our environment, we have only three things. One is the sky dome, which is up above here. See those stars, etc., which we see above. That's the sky dome. And the other thing is mountain skybox. See, we have our mountains around. So yeah, see which we have our mountains around. Those are that mountain skybox. And see this road. It's a combination of many roads, right? See, this ground road is a small unit, and see these all together have are placed as this single entity. So how cool is that? Like it's so organized, right? Let's do the same thing for our obstacles. See, we have our different obstacles here, and see having these many obstacle doesn't make any sense. So to clean them a bit, so to organize them a bit, what I'll do is I'll right click in my hierarchy and I'll just click on create empty. Create empty creates a empty object, and it's just empty. It has nothing to do with, we can't see it, or there is nothing it will do because it have only transform. As I said, these components decide the properties and behavior of it. We have only one component to this game, empty game object, which is a transform, and that decides its position, rotation, and scale. So I'll rename this game object as obstacles. Obstacles, yes. And now what I'll do is I'll uh, select all these obstacles. I'll select the first one and holding shift. I'll click on my last one so that I'll select all my obstacles. I'll grab them and place it inside my obstacles. I'll just hover my mouse over my obstacles and leave my mouse. See now, all the obstacles are under this uh, empty game object now. So when I minimize this, everything is gone. So this is the way we organize our project, and we made sure that in finishing this prototype one, our code, our project, and our hierarchy, everything is clean. So finally, let's just I'll hit this maximize on play, and let's just run this game finally once in the play mode. So see, this is how our game is, and I think this is pretty fine. We have successfully written our first player controller script, and we have made our first game. But there is something like we are able to play this in this play mode inside of our Unity editor. So just to make it available for the outside world, to make it available to play in our Windows platform, we need to do something like build. To do that, just go to the file menu and there is something called build settings. Just go here and see scenes in build. As it's mentioned, uh, it is empty as of now. Just click add open scenes, and now you see your prototype one, which is the scene we have used in these 2 days, and it's present here and it is checked. And see our target platform is Windows. Make sure that it is Windows and click build here. And now it's asking me to select one folder, and I'll go to my games demonstration. In this, I'll be creating a new folder called prototype 1 build. I'll select this particular folder and I'll click select. So after clicking that, the build process starts. See, it's happening automatically. It generates all the files which we need as a build. So now we no longer need this project, this complete Unity project to run our game. We are building our game, which means that we are packaging all the things we used in our game and making it into a particular game, like into a complete game which is playable. So after what do we say, after building the game, our project, like our build has opened, and see, this is the prototype one. It is an application which is a .exe that I can run on my Windows platform. So I'll just click enter, and that gives me a pop-up, so I can set different settings here. And when I click play, see, it says made with Unity, and this is a complete game now. We are no longer using our Unity editor to play this game. So we have successfully finished our game and made a build of it so that we can play. And to quit this, just click Alt plus F4. And this is the thing, like we successfully finished our prototype one, where we came across the basics of Unity, and we just programmed the complete player controller in this prototype one. So that's it, guys. If you have any doubts, you can ask now.
So, guys, I think this is one more peaceful session without much complexity and understanding. Thank you, Gautam. I think even there are minute number of negative reviews, you even considered them and made yourself much more clear. Few people asked him to go slow. I hope everybody is satisfied with the teaching in today's session, and the participants are able to follow the session well. Guys, I think it's time for you people to finish implementing the prototype 1 by tomorrow. Also, the recorded session will be given to you in the WhatsApp group. I think Gautam will provide you the Google form for attendance.
Yeah, I just did that now.
Yeah. Please do fill the form and claim your attendance. So, any doubts at any point of time, we would be happy to clear them. Have a
Yeah,
happy learning. And is there anything? Yeah, I think there's a. Yeah, you
yeah,
just
there
gave
is
the
a
point.
message in the chat. So Yamni is asking that if we don't want internship certificate, do we get any other certificate?
Yes, Yamini. If your attendance is quite good and if you're submitting the prototypes well, you'll get the course completion certificate. For everybody who's attending everyday session and who are continuously submitting the games will get the course completion certificate for free. And if you are interested in internship certificate and for the other advantages like the next five prototypes and as well as the knowledge testing quizzes and all,